Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. But the very busy times, an early morning meeting, some of you came from other meetings, came from the chaos of morning drop off. Some people need to get to other things. Thanks for your time. Thank you for being here. My name is Rachel Bennett, and I work with a consulting firm called MIG. We are here to support this effort with the Safe and Healthy Spokane Task Force. We'll introduce the rest of our team soon, but I just want to start off with a few quick housekeeping things, just so folks are aware. One, Wi-Fi. We'll just use the library wireless network. There's no password, but you might need to open your browser on your device just to agree to not do anything nefarious on the Wi-Fi network. Restrooms are down the hall and to your right. Please make yourself comfortable. Stand if you need to stand. Help yourself to more coffee and refreshments at any time. We are recording this meeting, and the recording will be made available to the public. So just want to let everyone know about that and posted on the Safe and Healthy Spokane website following today's meeting. And one last thing, among the materials that are in front of you, sorry, on my back to you, is a contact list. There are a couple little typos in that, so please go through and make sure your contact info is correct. If not, slide for us, let any one of the program staff know, and we will be sure to correct it before we send out the final roster following this meeting. We'll be sharing slides and all the meeting materials virtually as well, so no need to jot everything down. We hope that today can really be an engaged conversation. Let's hear from all of you. So with that in mind, I'll hand it over to
I'll go. First, hi everyone, I haven't met you yet. I'm Emily Cameron. I'm the president and CEO of the Downtown Spokane Partnership. And before I jump in, I'll let my fellow conveners also introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. Alicia Benson. I'm the CEO of Greater Spokane Incorporated. Thank you for being here.
Morning, everybody. I'm Lance Beck. I'm the president and CEO for the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. And then with our group, Zeke with Waters Meat Foundation is unable to be here this morning, as well as part of our convening group has been Letitia Hill with this.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Nemick and President and CEO of Chamber Credit Union, but acting on behalf of the chair of GSI. Welcome.
So thank you, first of all, each and every one of you for really making time to be here. I think I don't have to tell anyone in this room how critical the issues are that we're here to talk about, discuss, learn, and hopefully advance over the course of the next 5 months. So the task force is really, the idea here is a culmination, I think, of a lot of things. It's, for really decades, this community has been looking at the intersection and the challenges that surround public safety and public health. And I know a little bit later on, we'll talk a little bit about how this specifically came to be, that when we thought about setting the vision for the work that you all will be working on in the next several months here, it was truly, how do we get diverse perspectives, experiences, and expertise in a room together to really start unpacking the layers of these issues, looking at how we build upon the work that's been done, identifying gaps, and really starting to advance a regional plan that not only our jurisdictions can look, I'll speak louder, let me know if you don't hear me, that our jurisdictions can advance, but really also as a community that we can advance. I've been in this community for years, and I can tell you that it is a testament to Spokane and how much can be done when this community rallies together to tackle an issue or advance a priority. And I think there is no greater issue or priority right now in Spokane than really what we are conducting in this 2 spheres. So thank you again for your time and for being here. We're fortunate not only in that we have this process here, and we won't always be so close to each other, I promise. We'll look at space, but what a great way to also get to know each other. And we have brought in a team of external consultants to help us in this process. You'll hear more about how we went to Spokane County and how we learned lessons from other communities. One of the big lessons was help bring in the experts who know how to guide this process. Every community does it their own way, and so will we, but having experts like our consultancy will be able to help guide us. So we're fortunate, we have a project team that includes 3 great groups. Behind me, you have Jeff Bell with Jeff Bell Consulting, who's helping on the communications front. Online, we have Patty and Rick from the Lifespan Group, and you'll hear from Judge Lifespan, and more of his background here shortly. And then we also have with MIG, Rachel and Kate, who you will all get very familiar with as they help to guide our task force process. And I do want to acknowledge MIG and the Lifespan Group in particular for the expertise and their experience in these realms. And I'll let them introduce themselves and just how deep that expertise is. But we are fortunate here in Spokane to be able to leverage that as we move this process forward. So thank you for your time and your contributions, and look forward to rolling up our sleeves together.
So the time we're gonna spend together today. So a couple things we wanna do today. We're gonna have an agenda, of course. We're gonna go through some things, but when we leave here, I know all of you don't know each other, but you were all very important to the success of this project. So I want you to all leave here knowing who the team is that is gonna make the difference here, because it's a, you know, that cliche, it takes a village. In this case, it really does. You all bring something different to the table, but absolutely necessary. I also want, when you go, after we get through our agenda up there, I want you to be really clear about what the task is ahead of us. We are going to try to align systems for success and for treating people who need our help. So I want, and we have a fantastic, I've been saying to people, we have a fantastic model in Miami-Dade, and I think for goodness sake, Miami can do what we can. So we're gonna have, we have guidance from the judge. It can be done. We can come together and make a difference if we decide to do so. So I want us to all leave here knowing, yes, we can do it. And I want us, everyone to leave here inspired that, you know, we've done a lot of stuff, some didn't work, but this one is gonna work. Because we are gonna commit to it and do it. So we have 9 meetings together to kind of sort through this, and then we're gonna have success. So that's what I want us to really want to know, who is at the table with us, how it can be done, because others have done it, and inspired to know that we can do it. So that's how I want us to do. So before we get to the next section, it would be, and always help to really making people in the group, I would like you to go around and very quickly just say who you are, not who you represent, but where you come from to this issue, who you're working for, or what issue you come from. And then what you love about Spokane. When I flew in, I just realized how pretty it is here in the perfect spot. So I'm gonna make this.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Judge Kristen O'Sullivan. I'm the presiding judge of Spokane Municipal Court. I also sit on a couple of our treatment courts. What I love about Spokane, I'm not originally from here, but moved about 13, 14 years ago, is all the outside activities and nature.
It gets beautiful.
So Ken Stewart, I'm at the data project, but I love us again, probably lots of years with skiing, so we got a lot of skiing around here, so I like that.
I hear you're gonna have a skiing winter this year.
Also,
Jen, good morning, I'm Jen Downey, I'm the chief operating officer of things here. What I love about Spokane is that you can actually grow a garden. Say that again? Grow a garden. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Dustin Johnson, I'm the Director of Spokane County Community Services and Regional Behavioral Response, which includes a crisis system. I'm a licensed clinician by trade, so I come from really on the ground clinical perspective as well as systems. And I absolutely love backpacking, so I do that quite a bit. I escape the mountains when I possibly.
Outdoors, that's it.
I'm Jesse Bingham, the Spokane City Prosecutor. I've lived here since I started law school in '97, and I can say that compared to other places I've been, I love what I love about Spokane is how it's a relaxed place. That we do have a lot of the sort of the things that come with big city life, and so that amazing mix is what I love most about here.
Big city amenities about big city stress.
Yes,
Yes.
we still have some.
I'm Mike Spargo, Senior Director of Law and Justice for Spokane County. My background is working in corrections and working with the many of the justice practice here at the county and different studies in various things. What I like best about Spokane is that RC.
We just have rain.
Rain, you know, what's that? Sorry.
Hi, I'm Paul Charbonneau, Director of the Spokane Defender's Office, born and raised in Spokane, I do love to ski.
Ski, ski, yes. Michelle.
Good morning, Rochelle Cleveland, Director of Advocacy with the Community Sexual Assault Crime Victim Service Center Program, serving Spokane County. You're from Waste and Choice. I would say that I am obsessed with paddleboarding, so I love all the coastal lakes and rivers.
I'm Matt Coles, I'm Assistant Chief of the Spokane Police Department. I've been here for 32 years-ish. And I like people. I like how easy it is to get to know people, talk with them. I don't know, we have had I see us as having a shared vision for what Spokane should.
Very important that day.
Hi, Nick Antich, Director of City Public Defender's Office. I came to Spokane 35 years ago, law school. I had no intent to stay, but I found my home here. It's nice to lose my
Hi, my name is Justin Hunter. I'm Under Sheriff of the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. I've lived here my entire life. What I love about Spokane is it's got family here, laid down roots, and it's a community that is large enough where there's a lot of things to do, a lot of different, whether it's outdoors, whether it's more of the big city type of attractions. But you can talk to somebody for 2, 3, 4 minutes, and I guarantee that if you've been here for any length of time, you can find somebody that you both know. Small,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really good.
I'm Judge Tony Diesel, and I'm the Spokane County Superior Court Judge, and I'm the incoming presiding judge. And I'm born and raised in Spokane, and I've been involved in criminal justice reform for most of my career. Before I was a judge, I was a deputy prosecutor in Spokane County, and I'm really looking forward to this work. I've been engaged in this work for a number of years, and it's great to have all of these stakeholders present in one group.
Morning, I'm Jim Murphy, I'm a retired Superior Court Judge. I'm a 4th generation Spokaneite, born and raised here. The thing I love about Spokane is shown right here, the spirit of coordination of success among people who live here and work here and want to see this to be a better place. I was chair of the Spokane Regional Criminal Justice Commission that wrote the blueprint for reform. I spent 3 years on that, including Mike Sparler was an absolutely essential member of that group of 4 people. And I'm very excited to be involved in this based on my work on that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Trusty. I'm the Executive Director for Young Citizen Action. We advocate for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault from a Latin perspective. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and I grew up there near nature and loved that about the island. And I lived in Miami for a few years, had my firstborn, and something I really love about Spokane is how family friendly it is, and there's so many activities to do with kids out in nature. So much access to nature here as well. And I just wanted to give them that wholesome growing up here. And I also want to make sure that that it stays like that, how it was 15 years ago, where people can come here and raise a family and be safe and thrive and keep moving forward.
Thank you. Sky.
Lemon Speciat, Masket, Luis Quest, Chinquillispi. Hello everyone, my name is Sky Pagley, I'm a Kalispel tribal member. I'm also the executive director of the Camas Foundation, which is a 501c3 that's incorporated by the Kalispel tribe. And I want to speak on behalf of the tribes local, the original stewards of this land. It's our responsibility and part of who we are to be good stewards of the land, of the wildlife, and of the people of this region. Our people live and reside in these communities. We want to see these communities do well in this space. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to collaborate with other tribes as well, on some of these pieces. And, I was really hoping that Tony and Angel would be here, but, you know how they are.
Soon, yes.
All right, love you.
Thank you for setting that, and I'm thrilled to hear a native speak. John.
Hello, John Brown, Chief Operating Strategy Officer, Chad South. I grew up on, my wife and I both grew up on farms in central Washington, but been in Spokane for about 24 years now. And love Spokane for all the reasons that have already been said, but I would say primarily the outdoor nature piece. I wanted to live in Alaska for pretty much all my childhood. This is the closest I got.
Alicia. Hi, Alicia Barbieri with the Valley Barbieri Company, as also chair of the CSP board. I am a 5th generation Spokanite, so I don't. Is that the correct thing? Spokanite, yes. Unofficially, I suppose. So there's a lot, I guess, I certainly had plenty of opportunities to go out and around and live other places, but I loved here for a number of reasons. So probably one of my favorite is strength of the community. I think this is a representation of that. We're a very passionate community, and we want to get something done. An improvement, or in this case, obviously, a social justice, safe and healthy issue. We know how to come together and found this and some. Great to hear. Chris.
Chris Bold, corrections officer, Spokane County Jail. Also the president of our local union, of Spokane, for same thing everybody else does, outdoor activities.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
And Dean Marks, here with that, working Water Street Foundation. Also, my background from healthcare, so I bring that lens as well.
Probably you're gonna have to speak up.
My background in healthcare, so I bring that lens as well. Both of our girls were born here and grew up in this environment. It is a wealth of opportunities, indoor and outdoor kids, and that has been.
Yeah.
Matt Albright, I'm an executive with Providence Healthcare. I'm a cheese head transplant from Wisconsin. Came here with the military and fell in love with it. And just, I think for me, the acceptance that we as veterans feel in this community, is an incredible representation of the passion, for community. So that's what I love about being here.
Wonderful. Pam.
I am Pam Carr, and I'm the executive director of the Spokane Housing Authority, and we provide affordable housing rental assistance to 6 counties, which represents about 20% of the state. State's geography. I really like the 4 seasons here. I grew up in Alaska, so we should talk. And in Alaska, there's really 2 seasons, winter and not winter, and it's a lot longer than not winter. So this provides a happy medium. And the 4 seasons is amazing.
I'm Stacy Coles. I'm president, not chairman of Coles Company. 4th generation, actually to do that, 4th generation in Spokane. And my background really along these lines, since I was the founding chairman of the Downtown Spokane Partnership, which was really key to revitalizing the downtown Spokane in connection with River Park Square in partnership, really. So been through this really a little bit. This is way more complicated, bigger in terms of scope and impact and everything else. So, but I love Spokane because we have a very sophisticated downtown, and we also, as everybody said, free access to skiing and all the other outdoor things. We love to do it. So your nature, you're perfect.
Good morning, Carl Otterstrom, CEO of Spokane Transit. Born and raised here. My parents were the first Californians to set up in the 1960s. Really wanted to be in place with nature. Today, but I love that Spokane is an authentic place. both the people and the community and place of duty.
Good morning, I'm going to comment on your mistake, Blair and both the post rate on the building. I've been noticing the little balloon. Very nice. Good handwriting too, we can read.
When I was growing up, we couldn't go out to recess until we completed our penmanship exercise. I was laser focused. Thank you.
So, Frank Vasquez, I've had, you have a lot of careers, I'm on my 41 in public health in Spokane. And there are three things that are important. Number one is, you can belong and you can own. There's a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership that you can have, which I lived in a lot of places and I cannot say that you, everywhere it's not criticism, just an observation, that's number one. Number two, I do have to pull up login for the Caribbean culture.
Okay. Yeah.
For like, 4 weeks. But we do have a lot of it for a mid-town city, mid-sized city.
And if you want to.
Yes, we do. And the third, which I don't say is my humanity, we have the first generation of last visitors on this program. Our great grandchildren, which basically means, and will be very clear, we're never. In a very nice.
But firm.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sean Wendell, Executive Director of the HUD Settlement, incoming board chair of the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. I can't keep up with the Barbarians, the Murphys. I'm ahead of you. I'm the fourth generation of fifth line. And I think I've been in the for-profit world half my career, and now I'm spending time in the not-for-profit world. But I have to say how amazingly generous this community is. I absolutely love sharing our mission and our impact, and then just these like communities on fire. Support.
My name is Qatar Johnson Jones, and I am from Gabriel's Challenge, and we are a mutual convener of community, bring community voice and solutions to find for youth and young adults around fentanyl in our region. And what I love about Spokane is the unique way we show up. We know how when something happens to come together, collaborate, to find solutions for the complex problems in our community, and that's what I love about Spokane.
And Ms. Jones, I would love during the course of the day for us to hear about the No Wrong Door Summit and some of the things that came out of that we can integrate into this process. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Matt Ginsey from the Fire Chief for Spokane County Fire District 9. Probably the newest to Spokane here. I just came over from the west side, working on Vashon for the last couple of years as a fire chief in January. So I can't really speak to a lot of activity outside of my office and building a house and resettled so far. 2 Chiefs games. I'll say I'm a hockey fan. Games. I worked and lived in Burlington, Vermont, Washington DC, Vashon Island, and now hopefully my last stop is Spokane. So I look forward to the collaboration. I've done a lot of work in collaborating with community partners, lobbied in the legislature in Vermont for 10 years, advocating for resources for the fire service and the fire EMS, and then almost 9 years in Washington DC up on Capitol Hill and across the whole United States and Canada, working with the International Association of Fire. Look forward to this work. Hope I can bring some experience into the day.
My name is Adam Swinder. I'm the superintendent of Spokane Public Schools. I'm part of the fifth generation family to the area, so really deep roots. And the thing that I love about Spokane is that there is a sense of family, and yet we also have some of the best pieces of being part of the city. So I love the fact that almost everywhere you go, you will find someone who is connected through a friend or a relative or a marriage. Feels like we are. We have more in common than we have different, but we have also lost our way. So excited to be here and be part of this process.
Stanley Harewood, Vice Chair of the Justice Not Jail Political Action Campaign, originally from Southern California.
been here in Spokane, my partner residence, I'll say the last 11, 12 years. And what I do love about Spokane and Washington itself is the outdoors, all the lakes, and I love fishing. Big fishing, love going to the lakes and camp.
I can't give you my spot, so don't ask.
We need to have fun with Lake.
Oh, there's something there I don't know about, but, yeah, was there enough? Yeah.
Last back, I'm the second generation raising our third, and we came back after nearly a decade down in Oregon to come back here to raise our family. And I love nature. Nobody said golf, so I'm a little disappointed when golf period of golf flooding and the mountains. I love the mountains.
Good morning again, Alicia Benson for Spokane Incorporated. Trying to call this a little different. Both of our kiddos, so transplanted to Spokane, been here almost 20 years. Both our kiddos were born here in Spokane, so this is home. Our daughter is now a freshman at one of Adams schools, and I just truly, I'm gonna come back Sundays that are here, the people, and the incredible ability to come together to do great things and good things. That is what's kept me here and kept me in this work, and the opportunities that this year with all of you and many others to come. So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I know, I guess I don't get to claim I'm that new anymore, I just celebrated 3 years and she bought a house, yeah. I'm invested. Recovering Californian, I guess, but, you know, I think really what makes Spokane such a special place is to kind of build on not just people, but the spirit of the people. You can tell this is a very sacred place, the history of the land and the people, and fast forward to today, and kind of again that spirit and that tenacity of the people here is very unique and special, and proud to be part of it.
Charlotte, chair of GSI, and I'm original Montanan, and so I had small town in my veins, and Spokane is the biggest small town you can ever be a part of. And it was just an opportunity that I never imagined would come to me, of being welcomed into this community, and that's the best part that I have experienced is the amount of care and concern we have for each other. We have our differences, but we all know how to come together and make things better. And it's very fun. It's pretty incredible.
Hi, Jeff Bell, and just feel really honored to be in this room with all of you to take on this challenge. And I'm very hopeful about this. I'm not from Spokane originally. What I find interesting about Spokane is that people are notified about how high school you went.
I almost said that one. I asked where you go to school, and not in college.
We raising a family here in this life experience, school system, outdoor activities, this has that family focus. I really appreciate it.
You know what I just heard is I heard why this project's going to be a success. Cause I know working on hard things, no matter what part of the political universe, the service universe, the skills universe you come from, if you all have common values, we can move forward. And what I just heard here is everyone has a common value about the people and the place. And I want to have us keep that in mind, because we are going to have some things that we're going to want to do differently or think differently about. But just know we all have the same value for what kind of community we want to be at the end of the day. And we're going to just keep focused on that. And because I'm so invested in your success, I'm going to make sure we all keep focused on that, because I know that that is a base we can make change. And so with that, people are going to talk about all kinds of things.
And how we got here.
Yes, how we got here, yes.
No, you're not gonna give a lengthy brief history. We can talk about questions, we can talk about it. Many of you around this room have been at some assortment of tables over the last 18 months. Some of you were with us on Monday when we did the public launch of the task force. And so I just want to give a little bit of grounding to how we've all ended up here.
So, I also pull this because each of you come doing really hard work and leadership and working on these issues from lots of different directions, long before 18 months ago, and long before the work that's ahead. But a couple of things, I kind of say like forces began to come together. So, just about 2 years ago, in November, there was a ballot measure on measure 1, that ended up being defeated relatively significantly. And a number of conversations happened out of that. There was a conversation happening at the county, learning from Whatcom County, which is great to have a county in our state who is doing some similar things. At the same time, Zeke, who couldn't be with us today, Zeke Smith from Waters Meets Foundation, called Emily and I, because they had supported the work that Stan referenced to lead the campaign of Vote No around Measure 1. And said, can we have a cup of coffee? And Emily and I said, yes, I think that's probably a good idea. There's a lot of other things happening in this community because of the challenges that are happening at so many different levels. And there've been the work of Hello for Good, and bringing lots of big conversations and folks into the room. We had visits, there was work going on in Houston, and we had visits from mayors, from community, again, so many layers to the conversation. But that coffee conversation was the beginning of what I often have said to our board, the most significant trust building opportunity between a few organizations, because what you've all said around this table is we all care immensely about this community and the people, and that where we were was not going to work, and we had to do something differently. At that same time, we had the opportunity to engage some of our other partners, Lance and Avista, and we sat down with the county, from bringing those conversations together, there were 20 people who agreed. We called them and said, hey, would you like to go to Whatcom County on this adventure that we don't know what that means, and do some learning? And they all said yes. And we spent a couple of days in Whatcom County. First, a huge thank you to Whatcom County, who made them, their team, their people, their community highly accessible to us and told us their stories. And many of the folks in this room, there's a handful of you that were part of that. The amount of real conversation that occurred, how hard it was, but also how community came together. We came back from that, and we're like, so what are we gonna do? And that group came together a couple weeks later and agreed that we needed to first implement some learning. Because what we also learned when we were in Whatcom County is that we've done a lot. We're already doing a lot here. We have lots of incredible programs. We made significant investments. We have great collaboration that's happened around certain things. And so we needed to make sure that we as a community were grounded around some of that. That group of folks, which is a combination of the folks on your list of meeting met from August through the end of February of this year. And we came together at the end of February with the support and conversation. Again, missing from this is that we had all of our municipal partners represented, their leadership of those different entities. And we came together and agreed that it was time to come together and move forward on next steps, and using the model of Whatcom County, although we've also looked at a number of other communities around the country, and are indeed a number of things from them and work that was already happening from other task forces in the community, but agreed that we needed to move forward with the creation and kind of using Whatcom County as a model, which is what has brought us to launching this task force. That is a very fast history, and there are people on the table, feel free to add in, but it wasn't, you heard a couple of the speakers on Monday, for those of you who were there at the press conference. It didn't get picked up as much in the press afterwards, but this has been an 18-month effort to get us to today. And sometimes folks will look at that and think, wow, 18 months, but as each of you know, this work is really hard. There's a lot of different opinions and views, and it's complex. And so at the same time, you have to honor the great work that's going on, but we also know that where we're at today as a region, we're not doing best by everyone. And so that is what part of has led us to this task force. So this task force goal, there's a charter in front of you, which we're going to spend more time on. There are also a list of people invited to the task force. Their intentionality of why each of you is sitting here is very purposeful. your expertise, your leadership, your knowledge, and the work ahead. But this commitment to have a broad-based community-led initiative around the most challenging issues of our time, with the center around this region, and that if we come together, we're able to do some pretty powerful things, and can we do it even better than what like our friends in Spokane County, because they've been extremely successful in their short amount of time, but it took a table this big times 10 to get them to that point. The last thing I want to say, because there's how things get covered. This isn't about one thing. This isn't just about a ballot initiative. This isn't just about, this is about building, bringing the systems together, leveraging where we have gaps, leveraging the opportunity for the best programs and services for people. And that includes what kinds of facilities and supports do we have? And then how are we going to create investment around that? And I just think that that's really important, and we wanted to make sure that we said that today, because when pieces get picked up, it's really quick to get to a ballot measure. That's not how this group has agreed to come together. It's agreed that we are going to create a plan that we are going to put in front of every single one of our municipal bodies in May. That says, here is what we have to do as a region in order to do better. So with that, I'll pause, see if anybody wants to add. I think I'm over my time probably. She didn't hook me off the stage, so that's the good news. But happy to answer questions that people may have.
I think really important to double down on the origin of our effort started around a failed ballot measure. We very quickly in that process recognized that the story, when we went to Whatcom County, we learned of their failed measures. They had 3 failed measures leading up to this, but what we learned is we are already doing a lot of things really well that they had to plan for in their process, but we're actually already there. We also learned that we're very disjointed in areas where we're not getting the best return for our efforts that are existing, and we know that there's future opportunities there. R&D is the effort. In chamber speak, that's rip off and duplicate often. It's also research and develop. And so I think what was really cool in the 8 months of time that we met with the Whatcom group that we took on that journey, we realized that our table needed to be big, our table needed to be open, chairs needed to be left at the table to fill with experts when necessary, and that we wanted it to be as inclusive as possible. So I think when we go around this room, the effort of that initial group that went to Whatcom County was to figure out who the best group of community stakeholders could be to lead us through this process so that no voice wasn't heard. And we're really grateful for your willingness to go on the next 8 months journey with us to come up with some solutions to put forward to our elected bodies to make tweaks to future planning and to move us forward as a community.
No, I think it's probably in people getting into this a little bit. You're gonna hear lots of names, right? We sort of informally call ourselves the conveners. But I say that in the sense that we recognize you all are gonna be driving this process. And so I think for us, it's really important in the role that we play in C4 is our organizations aren't just that convener and bringing together community voices and diverse voices. And throughout this process, I think helping us learn who we need to continue to bring to the table. That was probably one of the biggest lessons we learned in Whatcom County, is to keep the table broad, make seats open, even when they're not ready to be filled, so that we can create a broad and inclusive process. So as we move through this process, the 5 of us are not task force members, and that's intentional, so that you all can thrive this process, but that we're here and providing support.
No, the only thing I would add is the lesson we learned in Whatcom County was that whole idea that we can't always agree, but we can always agree to add seats and add voices and continue to have ongoing discussions so that we can come to a consensus. And I think it was an incredible experience to hear them talk about that the political environment can't be the impact that makes or breaks this process. And they were very good about talking us through how they went about doing that, and I think we can do it even better. Maybe Spokane is unique now then that we do have the ability to do that, and so I just encourage everybody to use your voice, engage in the process. And just if you have ideas for other participants and that aren't, you don't think are represented there, you can just speak out and let us know that too.
Yeah, we'll have time to do that. So I've worked in both the private and public sector. And as a result of my time in the public sector, I absolutely transparency and clarity is our friend. So we drafted a charter that says, here's how we want to come together. And we tried to write all the groups that are involved in this process. So you see in the charter with some task force. And we talk about their responsibilities and how they're to operate and desired attributes, but we also talked about subcommittees that we're gonna set up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a planning group of the public sector partners. They're listed in here and who they are and what they are to do. So I want you to just keep this and be thinking about it. Couple things one of the big things about the responsibility of this task force is, and it was said by the founders, we need you to show up, and we need you to show up with your whole self and your whole opinions, because you are all a part of the puzzle, but you come from different places and you have different pieces. And we need to know when you have something new you want to add that may not be exactly what someone else has said. We want to create the kind of space, and I will do that where you can speak up and say, you know, we haven't thought about this, but this really is an issue we need to do. So we need you to show up for meetings and to show up with your full self, because all the expertise that we use in this group that we need really to guide the process. I also need you to be this effort, like a lot of others, there's history. You all have history, there's the past, balance here, many other things. I need you to be future oriented. In order to be successful, we need to know that history, but it's behind us, and we're going to create new relationships and new ways of doing things for the future. So I need us to be focused on the future when we go forward, and to remember that it's very, very well structured. This is a community-led effort. The reason that we have a planning group of the public sector, they're partners, we need them there, but this is from the community, and we need to make sure the community is at the table, because that's what will be successful in the future. So does anyone have questions on the charter and your responsibilities? Please, there show up, absolutely. What's that then? Michelle?
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the Leifman group before we?
The things that has inspired us is what Miami-Dade did, and we're gonna have the judge who led this actually talk to us. Can't be here, but he did video for us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting the Leifman Group to join you in launching the Safe and Healthy Spokane Task Force. My name is Steve Leifman, and I am the president of the Leifman Group. My journey into the mental health and behavioral health world actually began one morning when I was getting ready to go on the bench. I was approached by the assistant state attorney and the assistant public defender, who asked me if I would speak to a couple whose son was in jail on a case I was about to hear. I didn't know it then, but that case would change my view of these issues and actually my entire life. This lovely couple came into my chambers. They were terribly distraught. The mom was crying, the dad was shaking, and they literally began to beg me to get their son help. They told me that he was a brilliant man. He had gone to Harvard. He had a late onset of schizophrenia. He was homeless, and he was cycling in and out of the criminal justice system, and they just didn't know what to do. I think when you're a new judge, you think you have a lot more wisdom and a lot more power than you really do. And I made a rookie mistake, and I promised them that I would get their son help, because I was under this false impression that if you got arrested and you had a serious mental health disorder, that we had a system in place to treat you. I knew that if you came into jail and had a heart attack, we weren't going to let you lie and die on a dirty jail floor cell. And I just assumed that if you got arrested and you were in a full-blown psychotic crisis, we wouldn't let you lie and die on a dirty jail floor either. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't have been more wrong. As I went back into the court to take up his case, the mom stopped me and she said, "Judge, there's one more thing I need to tell you about my son." She said, "Not only is he brilliant, but respectfully, he probably knows more about the mental health system than you do." I was kind of taken back. I wasn't sure what she was trying to say, and I looked at her and said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "You see, my son is the former head of psychiatry at Jackson Memorial Hospital, our largest public hospital in Florida. And he had this late onset of schizophrenia. He didn't show up to work. He ended up homeless, and he's been recycling in and out of the criminal justice system ever since." As you can imagine, I was pretty determined to try to help this young man. I went into court, I called his case, we had an amazing conversation. But because I really didn't know what I was doing yet at that time, some of the things I asked him triggered him, and he had a full-blown psychotic episode. He started screaming at the top of his lungs that the couple in the back, which were actually his parents, were really from the CIA and they had come to kill him. I ended up ordering all kinds of psychological evaluations to get him evaluated for competency. He spent much more time in jail than I could have ever sentenced him. And at the end of a 14 or 15-week period, I had no choice but to release him back to the street, floridly psychotic, imminently dangerous to self or others, and incompetent to proceed. None of us go into our professions to be part of that kind of problem. Not only did I not fulfill the promise I made his parents that I would get their son help, I put him at risk, I put the community at risk, and I probably put my job at risk. God forbid something terrible happened to him or to someone else. But I followed the law. And his case was a window to everything that was wrong with both our approach from the criminal justice perspective and our approach from our community mental health perspective. And this was actually an opportunity for us to restructure our approach. Fortuitously, there was a big national meeting in Miami that year. They gave us a small grant, and we brought in 3 outside experts that helped us map out the intersection between the criminal justice system and the community mental health system. And what we found is that we were just like everybody else, just like you are today in Spokane. We were embarrassingly dysfunctional. We had developed a system to fail perfectly, and it perfectly failed. And us so-called healthy people had designed this system, and we did nothing to fix it. There was nothing nefarious about it. It wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't any institution's fault, any party's fault. It was just a perfect storm after many, many years. And so we set out to fix it. And we did it by first developing a written collaborative agreement, by bringing all of the stakeholders together, just like you are doing here today, to collaborate, to figure out what was going on, to look at the research, to look at the data. And after a few months of working together, we put together a written collaborative agreement that didn't create a new program. It didn't create a new mental health court. It restructured our entire approach for people with serious mental illnesses and substance use disorders who were cycling in and out of our criminal justice system every single day. In fact, we were spending almost $2 million a year just to order psychological evaluations for misdemeanors, so that we could adjudicate them incompetent and send them right back to the street without any services or treatment. It was ridiculous. The results were stunning. They far exceeded anything that we had expected. The number of arrests in Dade County went from 118,000 to 53,000, and we did this by taking on a 2-part approach. We developed both a pre-arrest and a post-arrest diversion system. Our pre-arrest was based on a program out of Memphis, Tennessee called Crisis Intervention Team Policing. There's many other models today, but this was in the year 2000. It's been 25 years. And that program teaches law enforcement officers how to identify people in crisis, how to de-escalate situations, and where to take people as opposed to arresting them when it would be appropriate to do so. And as I mentioned, the number of arrests went from 118,000 to 53,000. Our jail audit went from 7,400 to 4,400. We closed one of our 3 main jails at an actual savings, not cost shifting, of so far $168 million that we have been able to reinvest in other issues, cut taxes, and develop a very robust diversion system here in Miami-Dade County. We also set up a post-arrest diversion system. So when people do get arrested that have these very serious behavioral health issues, they are now thoroughly screened using very effective and validated modern screening tools. And if there's an indication of a serious mental illness on a misdemeanor, within 3 days of the arrest, we divert the individual to a locked crisis stabilization unit. We get them stabilized, and we offer them an opportunity for treatment. And if they accept, they don't go back to jail. And we wrap around services. We get them a peer to assist them. We get them housing, transportation, food, treatment. Our recidivism rate for that population went from 75% to 20%. It worked so well that the state attorney realized that if you really want to improve public safety, you have to get treatment for this population. Because frankly, we have two options. We can release people with treatment, or we can release them without treatment. And when we release them without treatment, we know what happens. So we expanded our diversion program to nonviolent felony cases as well. And there, the recidivism dropped from 75% to 6% for those that complete the program, which is the vast majority of individuals. And so we know how to do it. It's not really rocket science. What it is, it's about bringing all the stakeholders to the table, mapping out our systems, figuring out what assets currently exist, utilizing those existing assets so we don't build a new system on top of a system. And then we look for capacity moving forward in the areas where we find gaps. And that's what we're going to help this task force do in Spokane. And we're incredibly excited to do it. And something else happened that we hadn't even anticipated. Our police shootings almost stopped because we had not appreciated the level of PTSD among our police officers. Our CIT coordinator gets about 150 to 250 calls a month from police officers for their own personal mental health issues. And so we set up a treatment program for law enforcement. And it really made a significant difference, helping save the county and the city hundreds of millions of dollars. And it even helped us improve our bond rating because the municipalities of the city of Miami no longer had to pay out all these ridiculous lawsuits because of all the shootings that they were involved with. So by doing this project, everybody wins. So what makes it a successful program? It starts with strong leadership, which you clearly have in Spokane. Second, you need a broad and meaningful participation, which you have already done. And everybody here watching this video who is involved in this task force are a great representation of the entire Spokane community. Third, you need a clear shared vision built on Spokane's strengths and assets. Fourth, data to help guide your decisions. Very, very important. And finally, we need to help you develop a structured plan that defines roles, responsibilities, and timelines to make this thing happen. We often joke that we are a 25-year overnight success in Miami. We do not expect that to take nearly that long in Spokane because you have all the components to make this happen. We are working in many jurisdictions around the country, and we know that it works. We are bringing these same successes to as diverse communities as Maui, Mobile County, and Alabama. We're working with the entire state of Maryland and California to help them restructure their approaches. We're in Savannah, Salt Lake City, and many other communities working with them to make this a reality. We know that by coming together, we can create the change that once seemed impossible. And remember, as I said earlier, this is not about creating a new program. It's about restructuring what you're doing now, working with the assets that already exist, and then building new capacity as we move forward. So my message to you is that Spokane, you can do this. You can build a safer, healthier community where the appropriate people get treatment instead of jail. Families find hope rather than despair. and tax dollars are spent more effectively and systems finally work together. And in the end, you will see significant improvements in your public safety. We are honored to walk this journey with you, and we can't wait to get started. Thank you very much.
I find the judge very inspiring, and I know from talking to all of you as you came in, almost all the pieces that he talked about that would be needed to make a success are here in the room. So I'd be really interested in hearing your reactions to what he says, or to talk about, okay, here's what it'll be like when we are successful, or gosh, here's a piece that we have and we could just do this a little bit differently. I can see how it would function. So I'd be interested in, I saw you nod, so I'm gonna go first.
I'm really appreciative that he said pieces are there.
Yeah.
And that includes the funding. I think thing we've struggled with historically is put more money towards it. When we've got resources here and knowledge and coordination of those resources, obviously we can all ask for more money, and I think we'd be appreciative of receiving it. If we use those more effectively, these begins to dominoes fall in other areas. I think that's a big push. We look at that side is coordinating that approach, and understanding what is there helps us better understand how we can use them. But I appreciate it sharing that, and the fact that that's was one of the first avenues that they looked at. It's not always the case when you look at the system, and Washington State has put a lot of money towards healthcare in recent years, and the question coming up, aren't we seeing the change that we were promised? I don't think it started with the what are the resources there, how can we more effectively use this?
Yeah. Other comments and perspectives? Or, yeah, please.
So I have heard the judge before, and it's always inspiring, but there's something he said that I think is critical, which is item number 3. A clear and shared vision. I think we all have an idea of what the end goal looks like in general terms, from our own end. But I think for us to be successful, this needs to be a comprehensive, holistic, clear, shared and supported vision. We need to agree on what the goal is.
Yeah. And the path. I think what's interesting is the judges here are gonna map the entire system now, so we can see where the links are missing and where they are. Yeah. Other perspectives. See you thinking.
I had the benefit of attending the Health and Good session where a judge spoke. And he is talking about things that I've been talking about for 20 years. I'm in the affordable housing space, which means that everybody looks to us to solve homelessness. We are never gonna solve homelessness unless we do something like this. Because it's just a revolving door. And you have to look at the root issues, and everybody thought housing first was the solution. Well, put them in a place to live and we'll offer them services. Housing first does not work for everyone, and unfortunately what happens is those that are working and working towards improvements get stuck with those who are not, and then they're stuck. So like when he started talking at the Hello for Good, I was like, hallelujah, somebody gets it. I mean, I've been doing this 37 years and it's the same problem.
Judge and judge. Anyway, we talked about this on what he said.
Well, certainly I can relate to his experience with that individual. It's we see on a weekly, daily basis of individuals that should indicate that the same thing. We can release them to treatment, and we do so frequently. The one thing that did catch my attention, and I think you have to have that discussion, is he indicated that it was a locked crisis stabilization facility. Currently, when we release somebody to SUD treatment, it is not locked. They can be there for, sometimes they get there, or they don't even get there, they aboard with the van. So that is one piece that we have to look at, is how do we have that component? Because a locked facility is very different from a facility that they are there voluntarily. But his experiences are not unique. Unfortunately, at the municipal court level, we see it daily.
Oh, good, that was a good thing on the list, that he mentioned everything to make sure.
Yeah, what I look forward to the most is mapping out and seeing what assets we have in the mental health room. As a judge, it's very obvious to me, that the mental health, deficit in our criminal justice system is a huge problem. Contributes to so many aspects of crime and societal problems. I think there's a lot of value in making sure that we know all the assets in Spokane and then making sure those are coordinated. So we kind of know what to do. It's been, we have challenges in the law as well, that are problematic on the state level. But I'm looking forward to that aspect of mapping out all the services that are available, encouraging the coordination with the criminal justice system in those aspects.
Yeah, Rachel will talk about, there's gonna be a day and a half workshop on sorting through the assets, and then we're gonna see some of that in our subsequent meetings and get to take a look at it. I'd be interested in people who are surveying, people who are cycling through the justice and health systems. Oh, thank you, Sky, I didn't see your hand.
No problem. One thing that I'm kind of noticing is we're talking about a lot of specific projects, whether it's, incarceration, treatment, things like that. I think it's also important to make sure that we're focusing on perpetuity. We want these programs and this value set and this vision to live long past ourselves and future generations. And I think as we continue to work on this space and in these areas, it's important to look at the way that that's going to change systematically and lead to a better future, a better space. 50 years, 100 years down the road. And I think this is a great place to start. It's always a great place I like to start. It's project based. But leading to a space where we have something, forever. I think additionally, there's opportunity for more inclusion of some of the other tribes in this space. When I introduced myself, I spoke on behalf of tribal people of the region, but I can't really do that because I'm only one. And I do have contacts in that space. Also, the tribes have resources in their spaces that we might be able to contribute. But we're also in a space where we're facing these things on a daily basis. And our communities are suffering today, so we're serving today. But that's just a couple of things, a couple of thoughts that I was thinking about, during the video.
Whatever we build has to have resilience. Other reflections, Ed?
I really like the data-driven approach. He spoke to a lot of different performance measures that they kind of looked at on improving. I think that'll be important for the community. I think one area that he failed to mention is just the strain on the healthcare system that our health population creates that could be treated more in the outpatient space. At times we're really concerned around access as we're already being challenged. And I mentioned, 50% last year of our English speaking population was behavioral health needs. The majority of those could have been worked through the system. So I really enjoyed the discussion around process mapping and really accentuating those services outside of the four walls of the hospital. Because what we're seeing and projecting is more behavioral health crisis among adults and adolescents in this community. And also with, some of the measures taking place from the federal government on Medicaid cuts, how that's going to drive delayed care, which is going to put that emergency departments who are going to go overwhelmed. So I think that's a really important part of the data-driven approach that we need to include in the work and also share with the community because it affects everyone's overall ability to see, especially emergency mental health care. So.
Many of you will, as part of the mapping, the Leafman Group is gonna send surveys to you to just document what you're already doing so that they can put together the picture. So I really encourage you when you get that, get on right away, because that would be part of the success. Other comments and reflections? Yes, sir, and then I see you.
One thing that's came to my mind in just listening to the judge is whatever we recommend, whatever we do, if it's gonna live into perpetuity or even get off the ground, the public will have to support it. And how we communicate with our community on this topic and help them understand. Because I think right now in our community, lots of press conferences, lots of news stories, lots of different perspectives. And what I hear from families, what I hear from people in our neighborhoods is citations, treatment, distances from park, Supreme Court cases, it all just gets lost in minutia. And I think our community is walking around wondering, why is this still happening? And I think we've got some amazing experts that could probably unpack that. I just want us to be thinking concurrently, thinking about solutions. I just hope that we can concurrently think about what's our messaging strategy to the community to help educate them and bring them along with us in whatever we're going.
Thank you. We will need all of your help on that too, because that is a big, yes, it can't just be in this room. Yeah. Sorry.
I hadn't seen the judge before, but that's quite a story. The one thing that jumped out at me was the idea of retention and the important role that plays. I don't know where we are on that, you know, how we feel about it, where the state is, and what's possible here, but it's really tough to treat people, get people sober or more able to make arrests. So,
yeah, we're gonna have to do some research on that. That's a national issue on involuntary dependent. I'd be interested to see what they did in mind. Other reflection, yes and yes.
We
Okay.
enjoy
Thank you.
the use of therapeutic courts here in Spokane. We started in the late '80s by going down to Spokane County and meeting with Janet Reno, who had created the first drug courts, the philosophy of drug courts. And we were the 11th drug court in the United States when we created it here in Spokane. Since then, we have added domestic violence courts, veterans courts, and traffic courts, a number of courts that deal with both social and legal issues, and incorporate a lot of what the judge said in creating success for those sort of programs. So and a lot of people that are in this room and a lot of people who live in this community have participated in those courts over the years, and the successes that we talked about regarding recidivism have been mirrored here in Spokane. So I think we've got a good sound base here in Spokane to employ some of those measures in this program. And I see an awful lot more available to us as a community from what I've heard so far, what we want to do and how we can do it.
That's a good point. The judge clearly agrees.
In my opinion, any successful approach that is going to have to solve for a problem that's very apparent in our community. That's when you're looking at mental health and or substance use disorder. There are a population of individuals, they're all different. Yeah, they require different approaches. But for those that don't want to avail themselves of service, you have to have accountability, and that doesn't mean necessarily detention. And I don't care, really, from my perspective, I don't care if it's civil law or if it's criminal law. There has to be an effective hook to be able to take people who are unwilling to change and introduce those services when they're not willing to do it on their own. If we don't do that, if we don't solve for that problem, we're going to spin our wheels and continue. That's the biggest problem from my perspective that I've viewed over the past 28 plus years of doing this job. And I know accountability can be a dirty word. Really, what accountability is accountability to the community, accountability to the individual. If I were, or my family was struggling with that, living on the street, spiraling out of control, I'd want somebody to grab me by the collar and direct me.
one of the things that Judge talked about was, those criminal cases that if they would agree to go to treatment, they would be excused from their criminal sanction in the criminal process. You know, sometimes some of those lower level offenses don't have the kind of sanctions where someone on fentanyl, you know, is craving fentanyl is going to care about the sanctions on the criminal side. They'll just go through the criminal process, be done with it, rather than go through the hard process. Should be.
Yeah, exactly, all of that, yes, we have another.
I would say, something to comment too, is that one thing that I've noticed about Spokane is that we make these changes, but it causes an off balance in the justice system. So if we add more police officers downstream, it causes a lot more issues. And so I would like the perspective of looking at the whole picture. You know, how does it affect the public defender's office? How does it affect the court? Transport from the jail to get into the court. So all these things have to mesh up with the justice system to have the resources to make it work. And then the other thing that was gonna say is that we just recently had a SIMS model done by PRI, which was a mapping of our behavioral health system that I'd love to just make available to you guys too as well.
That is the foundation that we are using, and I think that we have.
PRI, okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And your point also about once you map it, you have to know if you push on this side down on here. what happens. Yep, exactly.
There's gotta be a balance.
Yeah.
I think we recognize the recency of the Sims and we have avoided duplicating with the Sims. And so that was one of the nice resources that we stumbled upon.
Yeah, and then I know that Megan Bates and also the city has got something about. So I asked them to look for some crossroads to make it more visually. So I'm hoping that was conveyed and, you know, well, I'm happy to make it available.
Yeah.
Justin was a big part of that.
Anybody else want to offer a reflection on time to do some more discussion on some later?
Yeah, just think about some of the challenges that we forget. For example, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, or individuals it takes about a year or more to get an individual for brain healing. So you're creating accountability measures that many are not even able to follow mentally, emotionally, or physically. So I think that it becomes a barrier and adding to recidivism. But it's something that I don't think we're really looking at as a barrier. Are people in the capacity to follow the things that we're giving them to do?
I think that's good with resiliency and knowledge about how much time this takes and to make sure that's in the system so people can succeed. Any other comments? Yes.
The one thing I was interested in and what the judge talked about is taking a look at what resources you have and then restructuring what you have. And seeing if you can build some capacity even within what we already have in existence. I would guess that I think we are resource rich here. I think that people sometimes resources that we have. And I don't know that everybody knows what resources we have.
The judge made a point to say that it said, at the time they were doing this, Florida was like in the 40s in terms of mental health funding, the states way down in the bottom, and still they were able to do it. So I'm looking forward to what we can find.
Yeah, there's definite cogs in the process, right?
Yeah.
And so identifying those areas that we really need to kind of supercharge or maybe more fully fund or better work in an integrated way. I mean, Justin Jan spoke to that. We feel the same way at Providence.
Yep.
We have a very robust system of care, but there are some areas that need to be further grown, more fully funded. And we have the expertise to do it. And maybe people were really important through the process mapping. Yeah.
I just looked at the confirmed task force member list and I don't see anything reflecting membership by a member of the Department of Corrections. I found their participation in our therapeutic purposes has been one of the keys to our successes here, because the corrections people can both be the hammer and they can also be the drug. They can be very helpful.
So thank you, and hold that, after Rachel talks through what the process is gonna be, I'm gonna come back and ask you, who's not at the table yet? Who do we need to talk to, and who else needs to be on some of these subcommittees on the topics of the board, so thank you. We're gonna get that one down ready. I think there's just some time for you to talk through the whole process, thank you. I want you all to appreciate your excellent handling.
Did you want to do this reflections, Steve, or no?
No, I think we just did it, and I think you can go through them.
All right, great. Finish my items in a minute. So I just want to give you a sense of what to expect here in terms of your participation and also timeline for this process. Emily and others spoke to, and Lance spoke to, you know, between now and May, which is obviously a fairly quick timeline, but again, we recognize that this work is happening in some cases in conjunction with, in some cases in parallel to other efforts. We want to sort of braid these different efforts together to create real solutions with and for community as soon as possible. Also recognizing, as the judge said, you know, we're planting seeds now that will continue to bear fruit into the future. So this is the first task force meeting. We will have 8 meetings total. They're about once a month, every 4 or 5 weeks. They should already be on your calendar. And we hope that you can attend all of them. If you're not able to attend, please let us know. And if there's someone who would like to attend in your place, please let us know. We would love for your organizations and agencies, communities to be represented well in each of these conversations. One of the things, as Kate just mentioned, is that Judge Lightman and his team will be coming to Spokane at the end of this month, October 28th and 29th, and leading a 1.5-day long summit to do this asset and gap mapping. So we really would love for you all to be there, but also that is a time when we want much broader representation than what was realistic to ask people to commit to, you know, 8 or 9 months of meetings. And so that is going to be an event that we want community representation at. You know, we want agencies, we want service providers, we want folks on the prevention end, on the treatment end. So we will be sending out more information about that following today's meeting. And really that's one where it's like, tell your people that they should come to that, because that's going to be a really great opportunity, not only to interface directly with the judge and the Lightman and your team, but also to make sure that we're putting on the board what those existing resources and assets are, and then where there are gaps that we either need to fill or better coordinate. Coming out of that 1.5-day long asset assessment convening, brevity is not always our strength here. We are going to identify what subcommittee needs there might be, right? Like we're gonna have conversations as a whole task force at the monthly meetings, but there's also a lot of work that needs to be done in between those meetings, right? When we talk about the importance of data, we need to understand where the data already exists and what data we maybe need to collect or how to coordinate those systems better. So for folks who are really interested in data, you want to form a data subcommittee, you know, including people in this room, and then maybe also pulling in people who are not at this table, who have expertise or vested interest in that. Let's get them on board. So I think we intentionally didn't want to create subcommittees before that asset assessment convening, figuring there's going to be some clear themes and needs that shake out from that process. So that's going to be kind of a jam-packed week if you're able to come to all of those things. Again, the 28th is a full day. With Judge Lightman, the 29th is a half day. And then the 30th will be our second task force meeting. If you're not able to come to asset assessment convening, no problem. At our second task force meeting is when we're going to sort of digest what happened there and then come to consensus about what those subcommittees might be, and also really clearly identify what are we going to produce together as a task force, and what do our municipalities need to hear from us, what do the communities need to share with us and hear from us as well. We are going to be asking you about community engagement. Obviously, you know, folks at the table, it's a really broad, important group here, and we know that there are many people outside this room who need to have a voice in this process. So we are going to be leading a public engagement process. Again, not trying to recreate the wheel, not trying to duplicate efforts that have already been done, to learn from those and then fill in some gaps on maybe where that's going to be additional public engagement. So we'll be asking you, as Kate said, who else needs to be involved in the process. And then, as Lance mentioned, you know, in April and heading into May, we're gonna be producing an action plan informed by the Miami model, drawing on the best of what already exists here, and then identifying those kind of system gaps or places where we need to streamline or where new resources are needed. And that is an action plan that will be presenting to the local municipalities and to the community, and the public at large in May. So it's gonna be a busy fall, winter, and spring, but I think your commitment here is a real testament to what's possible coming together. Just go ahead.
In regards to the day and a half asset assessment, will there be an opportunity, like maybe a shorter session than that day and a half to bring? I'm thinking for me, the number of behavioral health experts and colleagues that I have in the inpatient outpatient space, to maybe listen and provide input to maybe the individual that is kind of leading the effort for the organization within the task force. I just, versus attending a day and a half of city camp based upon their work schedule. I know we had done with Hello for Good an introduction to the Leafman Group, the work they've done in Miami, but I'm just wondering, I mean, I can obviously communicate with them and talk to them about it or show them a video, but just a question.
Yeah.
For the group.
I think.
Or maybe a comment of opportunity if it's there. And I don't know if the rest of
Yeah,
it support them.
we have the Life Group is online, and so people will be able to follow it and they're building the structure. I think that's great feedback for us to build that in.
Yeah, that might be also be a great opportunity to invite the tribal behavioral health and healthcare facilities, because every tribe has those pieces as part of their organization. They've been siloed and separated until now, but some of those silos are coming down, and I think it'd be a great opportunity to invite them as well and you know, join the conversation.
Folks at the meeting, I had first thing this morning suggested that we have local experts on these topics engaged from WSU and to whatever extent with Gonzaga, Eastern. As another way of kind of pull community together and leverage existing resources.
One organization that I've been utilizing consistently and talk about messaging to the community, being able to express to individuals who have some engagement, but may not understand all of these and developments. They provide a lot of support to families and help guide them. And the county has a wonderful partnership in expanding that engagement community. But they be a wonderful voice in addition, especially as we look at how that can be shared with the community. Not only those that are currently within the system, but those that find themselves on the cusp of needing more information. I'm talking more family and connected individuals.
When we follow up, we'll ask for those names or encourage you to spread the word to them.
Just to give it back our mind, so a couple of things. First of all, I know maybe the meeting might have been saying, like, can you get a list of what the meeting days are?
Sure.
So we have to put your calendar for another 9 months, maybe it will be different. That's number one. Number two, in terms of the 28th and 29th, there was a statement that we can invite, we're gonna expand on that, because we could believe that we end up with like 17,000 people, I mean, people. So maybe we wanna focus on that a little bit. And then the third comment, there's another group, which Mike and I have to do part of, which is the community engagement group that is already moving forward with a community engagement process around the topic of justice reform in general terms. And it may be good for these two groups to know what we're all doing, because some of the health information that is going to be gathered from that group is kind of part of what we're going to be asking over here. So we're consistent, we're aligned, and we're not confusing the community with two different questions coming from two different groups. So one of my goals in life in Spokane is to line things up So we're not duplicating and.
That's a great point. I was thinking that.
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity, so we can probably go separately and Mike obviously has, all the knowledge, all of the history. Yeah, I'm pretty good at volunteering people. Having to be a CEO, but anyway, I think it will be useful to this group. And my main concern is that the community doesn't get confused. Who's doing what is it, that's a crucial thing.
And that might be helpful too for us this week. If we can be really quick on, you know,
I think that's probably important for everyone in this room, especially given the urgency and the timeline. We aren't going to be able to do it all within this room, and leveraging where there is work happening, and how we build upon that, so that this is enhancing and not furthering what I've heard a lot of you say already, is that there's a lot of duplication, and so can we, we'll work smarter, not harder, to really advance that.
I think it's very important. So if I think it's like move on table for a little bit, now we've already agreed, we're gonna line that with whatever this group is and whatever resources we have, and we'll have a lot of people participate, whatever knowledge is there. We wanna make sure that it's leveraged within this effort, so we have one community direction opposed to 12. So 12 is not gonna get us there. We need one, and all of these groups need to start down. Once we start moving, start like that, what's common goal? What's common vision? What is the outcome of we? So what do we expect? Not just this group, but whole community. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Just to, and I think just to kind of wrap your point there, though, I think a lot of that, there's so many people, like I said before, when big and stuff, students are all so passionate, but people got to be willing to put their pride aside and not be like, hey, that's just my idea. Now there's this other group though that's pushing forward, and they need to be willing to say, yes, I'm joining you, or I'm sharing with you my information, instead of like, stay out of my sandbox, right? I mean, that pride piece, I think for us as task force members, it's really important that those organizations or those groups that we know, that we need to help, either lead them or engage them in a way that, one, I said, feel appreciated for the information and work that they've done so far, but also help them get past any sort of concern on or pridefulness that they may have that could, prevent us from moving forward all collectively as one.
I think that, something that kind of initiates that legacy piece, or that this is my project, and is resources. Everybody in this room has been told that there's not enough money, there's not enough food, there's not enough this, that, or the other. And so we built up these programs, they have the great funding or whatever they need. But when somebody else comes along and wants to do something new or different, it means that you have to take part of your resources, push it in that direction. And so I think if we do have funding or resources that we not only need to acknowledge the work that's been done, but also present ourselves as a support to that work, and how to grow and expand upon that piece, because I'm dealing with that in my current work now, so I'm like, I'm here to help. They're like, I don't know about that.
It does have funding behind it. We're very deep, and that's from McCarthy money behind it.
I think an area that we have to acknowledge is institutional mistrust. Our community, a lot of us are exhausted with task forces. We have seen it happen numerous times, and people honestly are dying, and our family members, our community members. And some of it is this, but when we think about trust, we have to start producing something that our community will trust us. We see good things happening, but the effects, the feelings of our community members, of our community, is that they can't. And I believe that we can come together. And I think that the setting matters. Just because we call people doesn't mean they're all going to show up. Especially if we haven't built a relationship. And I think we have a lot of leaders in here, but effective leadership requires proximity. And so it's not just come here, because people come and then they don't feel heard, or it feels like an agenda is already set. So I know that we have the ability to do that. So yes, we drop the pride, we drop those things, the islands, and we also figure out ways to build trust again with our community members that might not come in.
I think, sorry, you guys just inspired me so much. But, talking to that piece, I think everyone in this room, comes from some form of privilege. That's why we're sitting in the space that we have. We've done the work to get here, but we've also, are privileged to be in this space. And sometimes working from whether it's a nonprofit perspective or all these different spaces, you see it from the outside. I think providing the task force with volunteer opportunities to get in and do some of the work and work with some of the organizations that could have resources for us will help us to ground ourselves in the work. And not come at it from, well, this is what we think the community needs. But you know, I was there and I saw the moldy bread that we had to hand out to people who were hungry. You know, these are the things that I actually see the needs in that space. It also help us to connect the community, you know, reconnect ourselves to the homeless population and see them more as people, you know, to those who are suffering from drug addiction, alcohol addiction, help ground us in our work that we hope to get done.
I just wanted to build on that and say we have to identify people by name and invite them individually because, you know, there's so much stuff out there around, y'all come now, or, you know, we just want your organization to be represented, but it really has to be personal. You're gonna get commitment. And you have to commit to listen to them too, but I think we've already passed that point where you'll listen to everyone. Super important. This happened in the downtown plan 30 years ago, and boy, did we get a lot of ideas. But it's amazing how a group like this can kind of filter things out, and the best ideas rise to the top, and everybody recognizes that occurs. And facilitators are super important. This it was actually MIT. A different team, of course, that helped that process back in the day. But if people are heard, that is the first important thing. And second is take the best ideas and go.
I think something that's going to be really important with that is that as we move along, this is a very ambitious timeline. So that how we have a robust cycle of communication where we're thinking, sharing, listening, thinking, sharing, listening. And I think sometimes what we do is we do a lot of thinking, and then we do some listening, and then we do sharing. And there's too much time and space between that sequence. And the way in which people want to engage looks different. There's going to be some people that want to be at this table. There's other people that are frustrated, have given up, have lost the belief that we can make progress, and maybe they want to share through a more efficient, different medium. So I hope we think about that regular cycle of thinking, sharing, listening, and also providing people multiple ways to do that, because how the community wants to communicate with us looks different, and we should provide a variety of ways to do that.
Yeah, some people like to go to meetings, that's us, and some people don't have time and don't like to go to meetings. I thought I would share with you the general topics of the subcommittees based on what the judge did in Miami. He had a group of volunteers that were his main task force, but also lots of other people who were subject matter experts. Go and craft some recommendations in areas that came back to the main task force, which would be us. But I thought I would talk about what the subcommittees are, because I need you to start brainstorming who we're gonna invite to them, and you have post-it notes. You could throw them out and Rachel will write them up, or you could just leave us notes here and you should invite, or you could email us later. So of course, we talked about the data is financial analysis. When we have our big system analysis, we need to know how many people we think in jail are mentally ill, you know, how many people are coming through the system, what is it costing us to do that? So there's a bunch of people with that information, and they'll get a survey, but we'll want some experts to be on the subcommittee to look at all that, help us figure out what the themes are. There's also, the judge talked about a lot of what he did is try to divert people from going to jail. And so there's the pre-arrest strategies, and that would be people who are experts in prevention, in crisis response teams, treatment access. So we need people from those worlds to come together and say, okay, if we're gonna do a really good pre-arrest strategy, and a couple of you talked about some ideas here, what would that look like? And we will email this all to you too, so you don't have to like keep it in your brain. There's also the post-arrest strategies. Someone's been arrested, do they really need to go to jail? Can we do something different and better? So that would be the therapeutic court folks. How's that working? How could that work better? What other alignment could we do there? It would be in custody care. Really important re-entry pathways, post-jail pathways, so people don't come back. So that would be for the post-arrest strategies, we need some good people there. The whole issue of system coordination and efficiency. Who really is in the case management business that has in Spokane that has a pretty broad perspective on what is happening? Staffing, the booking and the court processes, who's experts in that? All the interagency operations, although even though you're doing, you all bump up against each other all the time. And some of it works and doesn't. So that committee, we need people who really know that area. And then finally, facilities. People need mental health help. What do those facilities look like? What have we got now? What are they really working? Where are the gaps there? So it's need assessment, mental health on the detention side, also the in-community side, with the expert there. So we'll send that to you. So I'd be happy to take if someone's really got a group that is not here that needs to be part of our brain trust to do this. You want to throw them up virtual and then write them on the post-it notes, and then we will also email you too. So out of the big assessment workshops of the day and a half, these committees will come out, and we'll want to get them started at our next task force meeting too. We need some good folks. Anybody needs something I really like, oh my gosh. I didn't think this person, this group, this organization really great confidence. Oh, you're you. You got anybody else that you see how to do? Okay, good. Yep. I'll post our email. Yep. Oh, okay, great. Sorry. Okay.
So we're talking about diversity.
Where it was. Okay. Right. Alicia had in that. Oh.
It could be probably one of the subcommittee groups. I think you need someone with a construction background, that's a true construction background.
Oh.
A part of this, if we're talking about facilities, whether it's modifying facilities or building new facilities, I think having that expertise would be helpful.
Is there anyone else from your world that we should be good with?
It's not about Spokane City County probation.
Oh,
Probation health program.
yes.
Joe Middleton.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah.
I engage. So they've been on close to health.
Oh.
We have a partnership with them around the hospital, but they also have a outpatient program, so. And we can kind of work that relationship, but I think having them, be present or.
Anybody in your world?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I think some on my team.
Okay.
I mean, homeless providers, which is sort of,
Yeah.
they're all fun, but Joe Ader from Family Homes is brilliant. He's been down track. So I see progress.
This also includes other reports that are out there or efforts that have gone in the last couple of years that you have to.
I feel, that's.
You'll think of someone.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly where this fits in, but Senator Marcus Riccelli works at Child's Health and is leading the bond levy right now for the parks and schools, which has like really large Democratic and Republican support. So we could just be someone to learn from, especially with community engagement.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Can you jot down that name, please?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yes, we have it.
Yes.
Can you, anybody else from your
Well,
world?
you kind of mentioned it before, not prosecuting.
Okay.
Emma.
I think from, legal immigration, legal, Sam Smith, there's a lot of our people that come to get help for 6 months and then they're not homeless. Prevention, some mental health providers, I agree with that. And then there's a couple of data people that I.
Okay, thank you very much for the notes.
Guy, you have more?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know if it needs to be a full committee or what this looks like, but I think, lived experience is important. So I think there are people who have been through some of these systems, who are in a space now where they would be able to contribute to, yeah, when I did, 2 years at, down in Yakima, this is what it looked like. I had these things, this is the thing, these are the resources, yes, they were there, but nobody told us about them, some of that process, and then we could get, not only people who are previously incarcerated, we could, some of the people, recovering, addicts, some of that space where they've had that lived experience, and they're able to contribute to, is this actually going to work? Is this something that you could have engaged in, during your time in that space? Yeah, I just think that would be helpful and useful to get.
For the judge, peer navigators are very important in the system in Miami, so I want to be sure that we are designing with people, not for people. So, yeah, that's a very good point. Anybody else?
Follow up on that, I think, groups, Christian centers on a pathway went to the home.
Oh,
Because
good.
they're already participating,
Uh-huh.
and they have some. The background with the parent, peer navigation, all this sort of things, so I think there's some, probably. 3 or 4 key individuals that could represent.
Is there a name for the initiative that you spoke about that's we don't want to happen in parallel, that's currently happening in parallel?
The community engagement team, and it's led by what is called the community engagement leadership team also on myself. And Judge Vidiano and myself are the co-chairs, and Mike is the guru from like, so they the whole thing.
Thank you.
And the thing I want to do was something that I put together, almost 2 years ago in the city of Palm.
We're gonna try to
Work on their communities.
Yeah, don't develop that trust issue, and that's where it's from. You had a very good point, and that's what we're learning right now, is just that trust element.
Okay, that's great, because we want to be sure that we build trust through this process. So we'll need your advice at all times. Yeah. Stacy,
I was just gonna say about construction that was working on a stabilization facility in Tri-Cities. You're based to, I don't know, build outs engaged.
Okay.
We're going to ground, international and ours, ground, build ours and send them. So, we're in the, we're in the design phase right now. We're going through design building.
Yeah, I'm not sure because they didn't notice just this year, what involvement did they have? Was it local or did they involve state? Because one of the things we have up here, we talk about perpetuity of services, the major funders. And the state's funding for the population for surveys, about 60% Medicaid. And that's gonna have impacts, and we have commercial insurance, and we have the non-Medicaid or state services. And that represents any project we do here, right? Ongoing funding of community support to ensure that, right, if we want to build a program and provider, they need to be funded for that service. And we're not gonna have any incentive to continue that work if they're not receiving funding. So I'm not sure if they include that in that conversation, but that's a huge part. of any project that we started, we're gonna currently keep conversations going with funders. Because we could do a lot of work here, but if no one's gonna fund it. That's just, and I know we're looking at if funding can be made available through other means, right, local tax, and that can only go so far.
Not completely aligned with what you said, but a big part of the success in Miami is they were very aggressive about getting everyone on benefits that they were eligible for, but not SSI, Medicare, Medicaid, and that helped a big chunk of their funding.
Well, in the state of Washington, when they put that money out from Medicaid, they delegate that service to a carrier. Carrier then negotiates contracts with service providers in the region. So one individual may not get the same benefit or service and may not contract well. So this is the complicated web. So we're even doing this with our new crisis recovery center, which down in the Tri-Cities came up and actually visited our facility and our expansion. And so a lot of that work is being born off of work here. And even Whatcom County is coming over to look at our facility because they're building one as well. In the conversation as we build this is who's going to pay for it. One of the huge gap areas for is non-Medicaid. That was never included in the state plan. So we're building this facility, at the same time having conversations of at least 20% of the population that will be served there aren't going to be funded. So what if it's a great diversion opportunity, but how do we get along that benefits? And then the other carriers haven't decided if they will cover that benefit. And so that's the part of the conversation here, and I think it's always one that comes to the table is it's not just as simple as if you build it, they will come, but how do we ensure that then that we maintain? So I don't know if that's something we always try to include. There's 4 major Medicaid carriers, 18 commercial, I think 3 major ones in this area, right? And then of course you have the non-Medicaid players, which is the county primarily. So I guess throw that out on the table of how we must.
Absolutely aware of that, so thank you.
Yeah, and then I sort of wonder if that's like, we have the 5 here, but is there a 6th that's really policy? And I'd say policy, which kind of feeds into the funding piece, but it feeds into the legal, like, crossroads. Yeah, of course, and it's like, hey, that's where we're able to and continue to engage our representatives in this process as well from a subcommittee standpoint, right? Where we're weighing in and having them, not to say buy off on the process, but we do, right? At the end of the day, still need all of our local, regional and state officials to buy in on what we're doing here, and that might be a good opportunity to tackle those. So it might be some crossing paths from these, what comes out of these 5, but with the 6 so that we're simultaneously moving forward. But at the end of the day, we want to have a measure, right? So what is that and what are we asking for and how's it getting funded? And I think we can hopefully, we can look at addressing, right? Address all the big issues, but
Planning group, we need to bring them along.
Yeah.
The whole time.
yeah.
Okay.
So you look at the Our Summit, one of the core groups was policy, this was policy, right, legislative, and right funding. So it is important that there's that very intentional engagement, before you come into one policymaker, but the whole legislative continuum, which can be done. So at the end of the day, if we really go for additional funding, if we do go for any additional school grant, if we do go for any policy changes, let's just folks are on the table, fully engaged and behind it is both local and state. Not really gonna happen very big. So that is something to think about as we go forward.
I'd love to hear 1 or 2 thoughts from folks who haven't spoken yet. That may be because you're an introvert, which is fine. But if there's something on your mind that you think we should get out there, love to hear from you. Any final words?
I'm going to turn it back to our team here for some closing words and then say.
I want to, I'll let them flow, but I want to address one piece on the policy and legislative pieces. So there is in one of the documents in front of you, in the chart, there is a planning team that has the, so it was very purposeful and intentional that so we, county commissioners, we have mayors, city council members from our major municipalities who've been, at the table up until this point, and the creation of this task force was very purposeful and intentional, that they were one layer removed because they are the legislative bodies that have to be able to receive whatever the recommendations are, and that there was an importance to engage expertise. Additionally, that planning team does meet with us as the group of conveners, so they will, like, as the process is moving and recommendations, we can invite them to be joining conversations as the task force designs. There's also very active discussion going on to Senator Achille being mentioned around ensuring that, the mix of our state legislators are also part of that group. Because to many of these comments, and also some discussion around federal representation, because many of the streams that move that alignment, and resources are state and federal related funding mechanisms. And so there is, just I want this body to be aware, there's a very active conversation going on around the inclusion of the state and federal, group, but also there was real intentionality of ensuring that this task force did not have those individuals who would be responsible for receiving the recommendations at the task force level, that there was some level of separation between the two. But that they want to still continue to be very effective. So
Emily, before you jump in, I just wanna say one last thing, which is, as we shape the next few meetings and conversations, we wanna hear from you what we need to be talking about. So this is an imperfect method, but jot down on your post-its, burning questions, things we think we need to address. Also, we got your contact info, Ron. Please write down the correct contact info and just leave the post-its at your place. We'll collect them all and help make sense of them.
So, before we address the recommendation, what do we think? Like the recommendations to all of those. So we're talking about an order board, chief stakeholders.
So we have as part of the website, we've also created a general inbox, and we'll make sure that it's followed up with all of you, but it's info@safeandhealthy.Spokane.org. That is a place that multiple parts of the project team have access to. So it's an easy way of but it's also where the public can also send feedback. So but in the meantime, Rachel is also you'll be getting emails from her. So always make sure we haven't added her to the plate.
But if there's recommendations for names for subcommittees, we should send
Go
them.
ahead and send that to the info.
Okay, just clarify.
I will send out that address along with all the meeting materials, a link to a shared drive where you can always find all of the things that we present and discuss.
Can I ask a quick question? I know other colleagues of mine have a passion for this work, would love to participate, but would this group prefer to keep this representational? In other words, we have the presiding judges here. Are you looking for other judges at various levels to simply have a passion for this, would like to be a part of this? What's your thoughts on?
Maybe that's where I can jump in. So that is the idea behind the subcommittees.
Okay.
Is plug into those subcommittees and further flush out here in the next week. Depending on the area of action maybe or the area of expertise to really, but the idea with the subcommittees is to let that be a broader group. Then, it's interesting. This was an interesting exercise. I think there are a lot of experts and community members that add value here. We get so large, then it becomes, hard to manage, right? So, I think that's where the intent is to try to keep it high level, but we do want everyone who is here to be, have the opportunity to engage. So whether that be through subcommittees, whether that be through some of the ongoing community engagement that will soon launch, or even simply just emailing thoughts and ideas, that can be added back to the discussion here.
Thank you so much.
You had a comment.
Yeah, so Alicia, I'm trying to understand who our ultimate audience is. Are we crafting a message at the end of the safety process to go to the electeds, to say to them, we need you to share resources and work together in a different way? And the ballot measure is another source of revenue to support that, but it's secondary to that. Or is our message to say to the electives, we're gonna get this ballot measure across the finish line, so you have more money to work with, in which case we also have to have a strong message to the public, really understanding what it is. So I'm still muddying my head of which problem to solve.
So I think it's really important that there could be, so the plan that goes forward to the elected or their decision making may or may not include a ballot measure. That is the work of this task force and the recommendations. This task force doesn't exist to just create a ballot measure. I think that piece is important and built in. We didn't talk about it a lot, but they're in I think a little bit from the press conference on Monday, there are a number of mechanisms for engagement. So one of the biggest, like truly the number one takeaway from our time in Whatcom County was the amount of community, like feedback and community engagement from literally every group and every party that was part of the design of what was the plan that went forward to their decision makers in Whatcom County that included a ballot measure at that time that funded, some of it was facilities, a lot of it was resources around alignment and programs and services in Whatcom County. And so that public engagement process today is the initial meeting of the task force. There's a number of mechanisms that are built in to do public feedback, public engagement, those kinds of things that will, and as the plan is developed, where this body may say, we need to understand what people think about piracy. That's all a piece of the process that is yet to unfold, so that there's more public engagement that's feeding a plan that this body is recommending for our leaders that may or may not include some a ballot measure yet to be determined what that is or what's that.
I think I'd add that one of the charges we've tried to reiterate is if we get to the spring without tweaks to the existing system that will make our community better, that are outside of what a future ballot measure might include, I don't think we've done our job. Truly a believer that there's system coordination, there are better ways and pathways to better outcomes for study experiencing this young public that is very proud of study experiencing challenges. They're not getting the outcomes that are necessary. There's ways we can find methods to improve the outcomes in our community without an additional ballot measure. I think that's one of the challenges with the media right to that narrative of right there in the spokesman's headline, future ballot measure, right? And like, no one actually said that directly in the comments. Intentionally, we tried to not say that, and that was where we wanted to go, which is then shows us one of the challenges. We have to find a way to communicate that we recognize the system is well funded, the system has resources. They might not be operating as at the coordination that they could to achieve the best possible outcomes in the current environment. Our communities, we've looked at City of Spokane Valley, City of Spokane have both passed recent ballot measures to increase funding for this very work. So we are not in the same spot we were as a region in 2023. Let's not forget. So there are more resources than there were in all 23 being dedicated to this work regionally. And so what we had in front of us in 23 is not what there might be if there's a future measure, because the entire system has fundamentally changed. I think that's where it's exciting that you've got a group as broad as this together. And the other piece with Whatcom County that I thought was so interesting was this became, when you listen to the political extremes that were in the room talking to our group when we went over, this became a breaking of bread, standing on a stump on the street corner, speaking to your neighbors, effort to say that they could achieve something better. Their plan was adopted by all 7 individual jurisdictions inside the county. There was a reason that we pulled that, and we tried that method first with our 3 major jurisdictions, and we got very close to the point of let's not sugarcoat that this was on council agendas or commissioner agendas in all 3 of the major jurisdictions, and was pulled at the last second because the jurisdictions didn't have the trust. And so we are still at a point where the jurisdictions don't have that trust, which is why it's a private sector led effort to get to a plan that, again, I remind that the jurisdictions work on citizens' behalf, not us working for the jurisdictions. And so at the end of the day, it's our effort that we bring forward to them in Maine to say this is what we believe can do better. I have one question unrelated to that so far. Somebody had mentioned corrections, and we were missing corrections, and I didn't write down who mentioned. What did you mean by corrections? Because we do have labor from corrections represented, and we do have Mike who oversees corrections locally. Are you talking state level corrections?
All levels of correction. I'm talking about probation officers, corrections officers.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
question.
community corrections officers that are employed by Department of Corrections,
Right, okay.
that do the probation and stuff.
Yeah.
Wanted to give Laura a chance to say one last thing and then we're gonna close out.
Oh, I just wanted to share with the group, we had, just a smaller intimate, session with, a lot of the things that are already happening, but just not as, big as this table. We wanted to make sure it was small and enough to bring representation from different groups, and we have people from the city, the valley, and, even as far as the, Coeur d'Alene tribe, when we talked about fentanyl and a lot of people in our region, even the valley, city, members. And what we found out, we focus in 3 areas: sustainability and funding, the continuum of care, and law and policy. And what we found, we did the top 3 recommendations from this group to include those with lived experience. And they came up with 3 things. The first was our top priority was funding recommendations. They recommended the centered on pooling and bringing resources regionally, ensure that funding isn't siloed by an agency or program. And we're calling for shared accountability, tying regional funding and measurable outcomes and coordinated reporting. And they were recommending that working with through Gabriel's Challenge as a tool, as a neutral convener, keeping partners aligned and community accountability. And we were going to look at the no wrong door model. I'm hearing what you all saying about this, and coordinated a trip on November 14th to bring the community members out, because we know we need multiple ideas, because no one way fits with Spokane and working with existing and what we have. And they looked at the continuum of care, and the top 3 were focusing on creating a seamless regional care continuum, where partners strongly supported a regional governance body, which listened to this group. I don't know what that looks like, but we regional body, governing body to align strategy, reduce duplication. There was a clear agreement on deploying independent navigators across systems, including housing, justice, and health, to help people move through care without falling through the cracks. And finally, they identified the need for single trauma-informed intake assessment process, so individuals don't have to retell their story and repeat lengthy assessments every time we transition into a new program. And the last one was law and policy. The third consensus area called for policy alignment that removes barriers to care. And they recommended eliminating the arbitrary time limits that disrupt stabilization, shifting instead of needs-based to continuous care, and a regional policy review that is to identify unintended barriers across systems. And the last was urging policies that guarantee 24/7 wraparound supports, ensuring that no one is discharged from hospitals, jails, or treatment without engagement into the things that areas that need, such as housing, care, or crisis services. So at the end, together those recommendations define a pathway of coordinated, accountable, and sustainable systems, which I'm hearing a lot of here. And we decided to take all those recommendations and send it to this group. And Jan and I, we're talking about bringing up providers and representation of providers again on November 6th, right? Together to talk about the same areas and their needs. So, and we'll be sharing those here as well.
Very aligned. Yeah, very different. So there's a lot of incredible work build in and to build on, and I hope that this is a group that can help make it happen for our communities. Thank you again for coming. Please let us know any feedback you have. We want to get better at this every single time, so we welcome your feedback. And again, please try and come out to the asset assessment meeting on the 28th, 29th, and then our next task force meeting on the 30th. We will be sure to send a list of all of the dates in one place, as well as follow-up materials from today and a final contact list for the task force. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yes.